Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus folded out there.
Okay.
So as under Ringling ownership, so they turned around and they sold everything off that they could from California. What was left here, they turned around and burned in 1941. Yeah, the circus was done and over with in their eyes.
Why did they choose to burn it? Just because it was over and they were upset and sad and devastated, or just because?
No, believe it or not, it was actually for tax purposes. Because it was under the Ringling ownership, the IRS had come down on Ringling so hard about the monies that you hadn't paid for this, that, and the other, that a couple of their people, including one of their lawyers, went to jail for tax evasion. So to make things right, they said, well, you know what, you can't tax us on something we don't have. So they literally took the wagons out into the field back here and set them on fire. They burnt like 126 wagons. But it's not so much what they burnt everything that was in them too. So they burnt the seats, they burnt the generators, they burnt the tents, they burnt everything that had anything to do with the circus. And they took them out there and burned them.
That's
now, the great story is, oh, well, we're doing it for the war effort. Well, guess what, folks? We didn't enter the war until 2 months later. So it was
that's not.
Yeah, it's a great story.
That's a good story, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Don't hold on.
Right. Okay. Well, that's kind of unfortunate for the historical aspect.
Yeah.
They did that because so much was lost.
Right. And well, you know, we say it was lost, but at that point in time, a lot of that stuff was never going to be used again. There was only one other railroad circus left in the world in 1940.
True.
A lot of it was depleted. It was falling apart. It needed repair.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's like,
that's
you know,
a good point.
most of those wagons were 30 years old. They'd seen their better days.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So then, do they have like any record? I know we had talked earlier about, you know, the records being a little iffy
shaky,
sometimes, but are there like records or plans, architectural plans or something that anybody kept for like the wagons on how to build them or how they built them?
Nothing that we've ever found.
No? Okay.
There are some ledgers that exist as far as the business records in the Milner Library in Bloomington, Illinois, and in the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin. I've been able to go through some of them at Circus World Museum and make copies of a lot of papers, so that's how I got some of my documentation. But it's just a simple say. Back then, well, I'll give you a perfect example. In 1944, they had the first Circus Historical Society convention. There's a bunch of people that love circus history, and they came together, and they got together here in Peru. And they said, well, I'll tell you what, we got something that you'll enjoy. And they took them into the gatehouse and said, here. And they started passing out handfuls of letters out of the filing cabinets.
Oh!
So all that history.
There you go. It just dispersed.
It's gone.
And who knows where it ended up at this point.
Well, we have one gentleman in Columbus, Ohio, it's a good friend of mine, that has been doing everything he can to buy them back over the years, but you can't find them all.
But even so, it's up in Grandma, Grandpa, great-grandma, and Grandpa's attic.
Yeah, or the trash can, or gosh knows
because
whatever.
Nobody realized the value.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
You want to talk about the flood?
Yeah, that's another issue. And as you well know, there's a river out front here called the Mississinawana. I was close. But in 1913, there was a major flood. And it got so bad that they had to unchain the elephants. The elephants literally had the guys on their heads, lifting them up, putting them up on the roofs to try to save the guys. 8 of the elephants died. 1 of them floated all the way in town.
Oh my.
Every animal that was in a cage died. Most of the horses were out in the pasture, so they got up into higher land. But that was like April, and they were supposed to open the circus like 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And so they're literally trying to buy this, trying to rent this, trying to lease that to put the circus on. And Ben Wallace at that point in time had all he could take, so he turned around and sold the circus at the end of 1913.
Okay.
Ed Ballard down in French Lick, West Baden, Indiana bought it, and he ran it until 1918 when they had what they call the Great Train Wreck up in Hammond, Indiana. There was 168 people killed when a troop train smashed into the back end of them. Just destroyed the entire thing. So he ended up going bankrupt. He turned around and put the circus up for sale. This Jerry Mugavin and Bert Bowers that owned all of this bought the Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus. And so they ended up having 5 different circuses in the years and they were Ringling's biggest competition. And Ringling turned around and sat down with them, and it came down to a coin toss. Either it's you or it's me. And they sold it to John Ringling in September of 1929, I believe it was. And by February of 1930, Jerry Mugovan died during surgery.
Wow.
So he got out at just the right time.
Wow, that's fascinating. So with the flood, the water rose that fast.
Rose that fast. That, of course, went down that fast. You know, a week later, you couldn't tell there was any float, other than the devastation.
Right. That's amazing how rivers do that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, well, from here, I'm going to take you inside to the displays, so you can look around at your own leisure.
Okay.
Guided tour in here. I'll let you look around at your own leisure, but I will go in the back and turn the lights on for you.
Perfect.
Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but you'll find a lot of history in here from one end to the other.
Perfect.
And and then as you go and you say, okay, I want to ask that question, why, we'll get back with them and do that.
Perfect.
Beginning at what was the old original office building for the American Circus Corporation. At the time, this back extension was not on the building. But the way it worked, because there was a long fence down the roadway, the people came in through the front door, they bought the tickets to come into the property, and they came out the back door. So that was the entrance and exit for the general public. During the general public's days, there could have been as many as 15,000 people out here on what they call rodeo days, on the weekends. That's a lot of people to have to go right through that one door. Once we can get in here and strip the ceilings and then work on the walls more, then we'll come in and sand the floors and finish them out like they should be. Now, what we thought was paint in here, and I'm looking to see if I see a good example, has turned out to be 3 different layers of wallpaper. And he has pretty much taken most of it off. I don't see any sticking up right now. But he literally had 2 or 3 pieces in his hand where you could see 3 different patterns of wallpaper over each other.
Okay, alrighty. I thought maybe they might have been road signs or something that they've used there, but that is just unreal. Let's sneak around here.
Yeah, you take your time. You can go anywhere you want to go, Jim.
Oh my, even.
Yeah, see, we don't know enough about this to know if this room even existed as a bathroom, if this wall was built. Yeah, we just don't know.
And even has a full basement then, huh?
There is, and the power panel and stuff is right there on the side wall.
Okay. That is just unreal.
Now the floor gave way just as you step in there. That's why we put those boards down.
I understand that.
Now what's interesting is look at all the walls that have been torn out in this back room. And like I say, this was an addition. This was put up after 1944.
Right.
So this was one of the things that we wanted to do, was to get in here and get this cleaned out and get this floor ceiling replaced. And all these shields with the spinny designs are from one of the Ringling specs in the 1950s. They all dressed as Roman soldiers.
I'll be doggone. And none of those went on sale?
No, nothing in the collection was in the auction. Everything that was in the auction was donated.
Okay. Oh my. Carousel trays.
Yeah, quite a collection in here. We discovered some. Yeah, that's my tax records that I had to bring back here.
Oh.
This is a bunch of, there's the posters I was looking for. Okay. I gotta take those down. This is a remarkable job.
So makes me wonder. Okay.
We figure,
So the original, like when it was set up as
because that was all screened
Yeah.
in out there.
what?
That was screened in out there.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they literally had to come in the front door, buy their tickets at these two windows to go out the back door, to go onto the property.
Oh, which door?
Okay.
So yeah, see that's the okay. So that used to be a doorway.
Right, that's boarded up right now. That was the original front door.
Okay, but this was screened.
Well, these windows, yeah. And you get. So to create this front row, this building existed, and you can see the foundation in the ground. This is where the electric pump was at for the fire hydrants. That was the water suppression system on the property. If a fire broke out, there was a door close to where you're standing. Somebody would come in and try to get the pump running. The pump was then feeding directly out of the river and would force feed all the fire hydrants. Attached to this was a set of gates that blocked the driveway, and then a long wooden fence that went back towards the cornfield. And that fence has been described in a Billboard magazine as being bright yellow with bright red letters. One of the clues that we got that we didn't know about before.
Okay.
Now, do you want to walk back to those signs, or you just want to aim towards them?
Well, I'll aim towards them.
Okay. I'll let you
But the
get out.
board, what is the wooden building there next?
The corn crib?
Yeah.
Okay. As you aim out towards the red flag, you'll see another sign, and that tells of the yellow fence that was along the roadway with the bright red letters that said Circus City Zoological Gardens. And the yellow fence and the red letters comes from a description in one of the old Billboard magazines, so that gives us a little bit more history. That fence also had a rooftop on it, so that they could literally store as much stuff as they could store underneath that fence to protect it from the weather. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but right behind where this pump house roof is was a long 200-foot building that was made out of two Hagenbeck-Wallace barns, and they built the barn in between them to make it one long barn, and then had an addition on this end. The addition on this end was the slaughterhouse, and that barn held all the lions and tigers, and so the slaughterhouse had to feed some lions and tigers every single day. What they did at that time was they advertised, and if you had a horse that you didn't think you could use anymore, bring it over here, we'll give you $5 for it. And they kept them in a pasture in the back until that time came. Now, out there where you see the cage and the arena and the props is the actual concrete pad that was here from the American Circus Corporation, and in the center, where the bright grass is growing right now, is where the pool was for the bears to play in. And when the bears weren't playing in it and the lion and tiger trainers wanted to work, then they put a wooden platform over that circle to keep anybody from falling in and getting hurt. But that is the exact spot where Clyde Beatty and Terrell Jacobs and Mabel Stark and Bert Nelson and a bunch of other animal trainers practiced their trade and became as good as they were.
And the Hagenbeck horses also, wasn't it?
Well, they would have practiced in the different barns.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if,
But it's all the same size as a regular circus ring, which is...
yeah, 50 foot, 40 foot, depending on which circus you were on.
Okay.
Now, if we swing back this way, this is where the training arena was for the horses. It was an octagonal sized building big enough to hold that 50-foot ring we were just talking about. And behind that was the horse stables that held about 100 different horses and ponies that they used to train in that barn. That barn was still here until the 1960s, when it was finally started to be torn down.
I didn't get here until 75.
Well, just as a child, and I don't know why I remember this, but as a child, I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old. My dad brought us out here. We had a station wagon as a vacation, and we stopped right here, and he walked in that barn. That's the only thing I remember. And you can see the large smokestack. They had an incinerator in there to take care of what they could destroy afterwards.
Right. Okay.
Right, built in 1922, this became the big cat and bear barn for the